Hi, I'm Charlie, and I'm the co-founder of a company called Eventerprise.com, and I've done this once before, and I was asked to do it again. I'm not sure why, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So I was asked to sort of sit down in our little boardroom here. I'm in Cape Town office at the moment, and we've got a few. But I'm in Cape Town at the moment, and I was asked to sort of sit down and give a bit of an insight into what got me into this business, into the world of tech combined with events. So I'm sitting here with John, and I've got, what's your name again?
Keith. Sorry Charlie, you just received a very important fax.
What?
The fax.
Huh?
The thing, you know.
It's from Germany. I think he meant fax. Fax. Important. Yeah. Okay, I'll get round to those in a minute. Faxing. We're a tech company. Okay, where were we? Oh, you're Keith.
Yes, I am.
Go on, right, Keith. Okay, you wanted your 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, surely I've got a few questions to ask. Very keen to get them out. So, how did you end up in the events business in Dubai, of all places in the world?
Okay, it's a good question. It was a complete accident, to be perfectly honest. When I left school, I'd made it my point that I was going to be unemployable, certainly to other people. I didn't do brilliantly at school. In other words, I didn't sort of come out covered in A-levels and university degrees, which basically meant that I was going to have to make it work, whatever I did. So I tried my hand at working in the city in the UK for a bit, but that didn't work, and I was really not enjoying working for other people. And I actually ended up using my languages as a skill. And
so guys, we have a meeting now. This room is booked for now. Sorry.
Yeah, what's going on here?
Come on, Charlie.
Oh, these are the juniors. These are the juniors. Eric, what's your name? Justin. He's young gun department. Right, off you go.
Yeah.
Off you go. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. So the question was, how did I end up in Dubai? And I ended up working for a conference organising company in London for a very short space of time. A couple of people that I worked with there, Harry Yetman Biggs, he'll probably be on this watching, and another lady called Syra. And if they're watching, remember you two? Anyway, that eventually took me to Dubai, where they asked me to go and have a look at how fertile Dubai was as a conference facility, and that was in early '91. You guys won't remember '91, but it's a long time ago. And I ended up in Dubai with a couple of mates, and we set up our own company on the back of a little bit of work experience that this previous company had sent me out for. And we built a company in Dubai for a while. And Stefan, you're out there, you'll remember this as well. And we did that for about 5 years, I think. And then Dubai was on a roll. It was like a big town that was turning into a city at the time. And when we decided we'd have enough of the conference world, we all sort of split up and did our own things. And but I decided that I quite liked Dubai at the time, and it was it offered quite a lot of potential. And but I didn't know what I was going to do. So basically, that's how I ended up in Dubai back in 1991 with a suitcase, change of clothes, and a couple of quid in my back pocket. But other than that, with no plan.
Sure. So let me get this in my head around this. So tents in Arabia, like why? I mean, for me if I had to think of anything, I would never have thought something like that at all. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I did get a few perplexed looks, and I think a lot of people held their breath when I looked at this as an opportunity. But the story is this: I hadn't actually any idea what I wanted to do after I got out of the conference business, and I happened to be back in the UK, and I met a friend of the family who is a Devon sheep farmer. And back in the day, the farming industry in certainly the UK was going through a pretty torrid time, and to supplement his income, Richard had invested some money in some marquees, and because he had the barns and he had tractors and trailers and everything else and farmhands, he basically had a ready-made operation. He just needed a product, so he invested in some marquees to supplement his income. He had the storage facilities, in other words, barns and everything else. But he was providing a product for the farming community, for sheep and cow and cattle shows, displays, but also for the private consumption of the farming community and the Greater Devon community. Great idea at the time, and I went down and visited Richard, and it got me thinking, whether or not there was a scope for this back in the Middle East, in Dubai. I came back and I did a little bit of groundwork, research and what have you, and with Dubai on its wave, if you like, it dawned on me that a lot of corporates were now sort of finding their way into the Middle East and into the UAE in particular, and that they may have been familiar with corporate entertainment and corporate functions under tentage, if you like, and we renamed it to marquees at the time. But and it got me thinking that with the influx of the corporate world coming to Dubai, maybe there was in fact a market. I didn't speak Arabic at that time. I still don't, regrettably, and it was one of my regrets. But and there were a lot of tent rental companies at the time providing their services, their product, their style to the local and the expatriate Arab community in Arabic. So that particular market seemed to me to be sewn up, which left, if you like, the corporate and the expatriate side of the coin. And I decided to give it a go, or at least sort of test the market. But the problem was, I didn't have a product. I had an idea, and I had it was a gut feel that there might be something there, but I didn't really have a product to sort of show people, and that was a big gamble. And as a result, I couldn't go around showing people prospectuses of what could be if I had something. They'd all look at me as if I was balmy. If I just went to somebody and said, "Listen, I'm thinking of bringing some marquees into the country and what have you. Could you possibly see yourself employing my services at some stage?" And I put them on the spot a bit, because they not only were they taken off guard, but they weren't particularly sure what sort of event or function they might employ me for. So they sort of nodded and smiled. It was a bit deflating at the time, but I just knew that there was something there that could be done. The problem was I needed to make a commitment, and I needed to actually acquire something or buy something and bring it in and put it in front of them and say, "Look, there, that's what I'm talking about." And that's what actually that's what I had to do at the end of the day.
Shoot, so people must have thought at that time, like, you know, you were crazy, you know, starting this whole thing. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah. There was a lot of surprise, and I remember playing squash one evening with a whole gang of us, and if you like, raising the idea amongst everybody, and it was, yeah, it was, if you like, thought of as probably a bit pie in the sky, and a bit crazy. But the problem was the corporate market. The problem was the opportunity was that the corporate market was coming into Dubai, and you take yourself back into the UK or back into Europe, and people were already hosting events under temporary structures and what have you, and it was a way of life there. So there had to be an opportunity here somewhere. If I just sort of stuck with it. The problem was actually making the commitment and investing the capital to bring a product in and demonstrate it.
okay. And any experience with tents before that time, in that moment, in that time?
No, I think I put up a canvas tent in a forest at one stage. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. As I say, the idea was there. I had no experience with tents or marquees, which we called them at the end of the day. I had to learn the trade from scratch. Actually, having sort of bought, if you like, a set,
Yeah.
and I had to decide how big a tent I bought at the beginning, and how many people I thought I ought to accommodate, and then I needed to get all the bells and whistles to put inside it. You know, so I put an enormous amount of capital down to acquire this gear that I hadn't been able to test or to verify whether anyone would actually be interested in it. I actually had to just take a leap of faith. But in answer to your question, no, I had absolutely no experience whatsoever with tents, and I had to learn how to put them up, and putting them up was one thing, taking them down was something else, storing them was something else, packing them onto vehicles was another thing, you know, buying accessories for it was something else. But the problem was I couldn't do everything. I had to now find people to help me with this particular opportunity. And I remember talking to a very good friend of mine, a guy called Paul Flaherty, who's ex-Dubai and been out there for a long time. And I told him what I was doing, and he entertained my harebrained idea for a bit. And he said, the first person you need, Charlie, is somebody that's going to look after your kit, make sure it goes up, comes down again, is maintained, and that you don't write it off after the second event, for instance. And he was right. And I probably made my greatest or one of my great human investments. And I met and engaged with a Nepalese gentleman by the name of Arjun. And if you're out there, Arjun, this is for you. Arjun was an ex-Gurkha, British Army Gurkha, who had done many tours with the British Army. And for those that don't know who the Gurkhas are, they are probably one of the most formidable fighting forces in the world, and some of the most respected soldiers around. And I needed somebody that wasn't going to let me down, and Paul identified Arjun as a possible candidate, and we teamed up, and I think Arjun spent 10 years with me from being introduced. It's probably, and we're very much in contact today. And Arjun then left Dubai and went and brought his two young boys up in back in the UK, you know, who are now both through university, and he's there, and I see him whenever I go back. What was that? How did the question? What was the other element to the question?
Well, no, it's just how was your experience with tents?
Okay, yeah, so I had absolutely no experience whatever. So Arjun and I learnt on the job. and we actually flew in Richard, the guy the farmer in Devon, brought him out, and he sort of supervised us for a week and taught us how to put it all up, take it down, put it back in the warehouse again. Yeah, and then we had to learn what we could do and what we couldn't do, and it was a massive learning curve.
But I mean, something like all these things that you guys had to do, I mean, the time and effort, I mean, it must have been a massive commitment investment-wise. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, Keith, it was that. It was that. But as I said earlier, you know, I was utterly unemployable to anyone else, and I had to make my own luck. And with having exited from my little conference business earlier, I had a little bit of money that I had behind me, and I took the plunge and just chucked it all in. It was a case of all or nothing, and or shall I say, I'm all in, and invested that into a load of kit, bought it out, but it was like burning your lifeboat if you got stuck on a desert island.
Yeah.
You know, you had to, by going all in, you had to make sure you damn well made a go of it. Yeah, we did, but it wasn't expensive, and that's the thing with these structures. You could start with one particular size, and of course, you know, there was always going to come the point where what I had on offer was either too small, in which case I needed to buy some more, or it was too narrow, or in which case I need to reinvest. So it was a very capital intensive business, because you were always going to have more kit than you actually needed for the next job, just in case someone came along and asked for more. But it got to the point where you were it was almost as if you were on a treadmill, because you were your greatest asset, but you were also your, you know, I'm my own worst enemy. If I stop growing, I concede ground, and if I continue to grow, I'm constantly putting out a cash outlay.
Yeah.
But it dawned on me at the time as well that if somebody was going to come in to Dubai and eventually compete in the industry that I was in, and there is great competition in the space now, that there was going to be one of two things that happened. Either any bigger company, either from Europe, the States, or Asia, that would come into the country, were either going to come in and would need to spend as much and more than I did on infrastructure, or in other words, they were going to have to spend as much as I had done and more to get a foothold in the country, or they were going to look for the you know, the peacock with the biggest feathers to acquire at that point. So that, in effect, was what I set myself out to do, to make it hard for any competition to come in. I spent more, but at the same time, I dressed the company up to a point where it was, if you like, the most attractive looking business in this space to acquire.
Yeah, and Charlie, like something like this, I mean, if I had to put myself in your position, I mean, I would be utterly scared to, like, even, you know, it's something that's, you know, you could gamble everything and hope that it will all end up, you know, well, but I mean, it's also in the back of your mind must have also been, you know, what if something goes wrong, you know, it's something very scary in my opinion.
Look, that is with anything, you know, but if you don't try, you'll never know. And you know, I suppose at the back of my mind was I'd made a capital investment in infrastructure. If all went tits up and it didn't work, I had something I could take back to the market, get my money back to a degree and start again with something else. But that was so far from my mind. It was, you know, I remember that once I pressed the button and decided to acquire all this gear from the UK and from Belgium and from Germany at the time, that was a very daunting moment. The kit is now on the sea. My money's left my bank account. We're all sitting on the ground, twiddling our thumbs, and there was a lot of admin I had to go through at the time as well to ensure that we had a legally and a legal entity on the ground in Dubai. And you know that in itself was a big challenge at the time, because I decided to call myself a name that the Arabic, or the Chamber of Commerce and the municipality couldn't actually translate. The company was called Harlequin, but they had no translation for it, which is a problem, because I needed the name of the company and the for a trade license, and that was an exercise in itself. But it was quite interesting, because by default, by calling it a name that couldn't easily be translated into Arabic, or that couldn't be interpreted, if you like, I had created a niche that was exactly what I wanted, which was the corporate world in the UAE, in the GCC, and my name, the brand, and everything else was honed at that particular audience, and the local and the expatriate Arab community in the Middle East, or Dubai at the time, because they couldn't translate it, because they couldn't interpret it, didn't understand what the product was. So I had my ready-made audience, and after time, unfortunately, by deliberately not targeting that particular audience, they eventually came knocking after we were able to build up a reputation and name for ourselves over time. So by, if you like, excluding a particular market, I in fact invited them over time, which was very odd. But I mean, it was great, because we ended up doing a lot of business for a lot of very prominent local companies, families, trading families in Dubai at the time, which was great. So I got a mix of the corporate world and the private world as well.
Of course, yeah. That's very interesting. Wow. We actually got a question here, Troy, from actually someone within the office. He wants to know any war stories.
Any war story?
Yeah, I'm sure we don't.
Who's that from?
That's from Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
Yeah, he's keen to hear some war stories.
Some of the war stories. I think what he means from war stories, if I'm right, Llewellyn, is any stories about. Yeah, okay, I'll interpret it my way. Yeah, I think I can tell you a couple of war stories. I remember on one occasion, and this was after about 8 months of being in existence in Dubai, with this business, with my trade license and all my kit on the ground, but without any business on the horizon whatsoever. I actually I couldn't have picked a worse time to launch a business in the Middle East. I did it at the beginning of their summer, which many will know is a monumentally stupid thing to do, because not only had people not heard of my idea or my company, there was certainly no way anyone was going to think about hosting an event under structures at the beginning of summer. But a war story, yes. My first client, funnily enough, happened to be my brother-in-law, Danny, who's also out there, And Danny, I will never forget this, for putting your hand up and taking a leap of faith with me. But he, at the time, was he represented a very prominent marine motorboat outboard engine company at the time, and he was exhibiting at a boat show in the Middle East. It was called the Dubai Boat Show, I think it was. And he took a leap of faith on me. He said, "All right, Charlie, yeah, I'll employ your services for us. What I'd like is a tent, and I'd like a bar, and I'd like some hospitality equipment and everything else." And I was ticking all the boxes and say, yeah, we can do all of this, Danny, no problem at all. And the people in the exhibition world will know how valuable setup time and strike time is. So when I asked Danny for 5 days in advance of the exhibition for me to get up what he needed, bless him, he gave me the 5 days, and because we were familiar with the venue and Mike Scully at the time, he allowed us that time. But I remember unfolding all of the kit, finding our designated area in this car park in which to put the structures up and what have you, and getting ourselves a little bit too excited, laying it all out, and eventually getting to the point where we were going to raise the roof of our tent on our. Remember, this is our first outing of one of our tents. I bought 2 tents, by the way. One, if you like, looked like a sort of Chinese hat. We used to call it the Oriental, and we were using him for the first time. And Arjun and I at the time got to the point where we'd laid all the kit out and everything. We were about to raise it, and as I say, we got a bit excited. We took the centre pole that actually goes in to form the Chinese hat, and lo and behold, in our excitement, we put the pole through the structure itself and created about a 9-foot rip in the tent. And this is within about 4 hours of being on site. And the first event that we'd ever done, we had now ripped our only roof skin that we had. And it was quite a quite a deflating moment, if you like, because I had competition. My competition was also at the boat show, providing much bigger infrastructure for much bigger clients. But fortunately, I had made an ally and a friend in one of those competitors, Joss, from a company called Al Khalij Tents, and he very kindly leapt to my side and helped me weld, if you like, this sort of rip and save the day in many respects. But that was day one of our first event ever. But the interesting thing about that particular example was that what took us 5 days to put up then, today would take us 45 minutes. So it was just, it just shows how, how wet behind the ears and how green we were at the time.
Yeah, no, of course, definitely. Very interesting.
Oh, another one. Here's another one. I remember, you want a war story? I'm going to give you one. We actually became very good friends with a very renowned and reputable event planner and his partner in Dubai at the time, and we were asked to put up a structure for khutuba. Now, a khutuba is, if you like, it's the prequel to a local wedding, where the local bride and her best girls, if you like, get together in the run-up to the wedding. And we were asked to put up this structure for this khutuba, and it was in Abu Dhabi. And again, I gave ourselves a lot longer than we actually needed in terms of time, and we got to the point where we had built, if you like, the exoskeleton, the skeleton of a tent, if if you like. It looks like a loaf of bread. That's what it's going to look like, a loaf of bread which you could add slices to make it bigger or smaller. But we got to the point where we built the skeleton. We were sitting down having a cup of coffee and admiring our handiwork, and it did look good. It was square and everything else. But lo and behold, and unbeknown to us, the shaker, the client, had recently laid a new lawn on which we had built this particular structure. But we didn't know at the time what was underneath the lawn until the gardener turned on the irrigation, and it was very apparent that we'd gone through one of her water mains, and the entire structure in the midsection of it began collapsing into the ground and disappearing before our very eyes. And this was, this was quite a depressed moment, watching the tent gradually disappear. But it worked. We gave ourselves enough time. It was just a case of rebuilding it. We worked day and night, rebuilt it again. But again, everything you did was a learning. We learned so much from it. Find out what's underneath the ground before you actually put your stakes in. Elementary, but you had to go through some of these. You had to go through some of these problems to actually to get through to the other side. Yeah, there's a couple of war stories there.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, that's something we take in.
Ask Lou if that worked. Is that okay, Lou?
I'm sure he finds it good. We've got another 2 questions from new people.
Yeah.
So, what is your? Okay, so this is from. So yeah, what is?
Who's this from?
Aaron Adish. They ask, what does success look like for you?
Success. What does success look
like for you?
Yeah. Okay, it's a very good question. For me, success is having set out to do something and actually executing on it and delivering. If I set myself a goal, I'm going to go out and achieve it. And unless I do, it isn't successful. So applying yourself daily and going out, deciding what you're going to do, executing, but going beyond just executing, going the extra mile, and walking away from something where somebody looks back and says, how that was actually a terrific event, and feeding a review or an accolade back to me, and coming back for more. So that's a good measure of success, I think. Getting a very healthy and review and testimonial, because ultimately at the end of the day, you're only as good as your last event, and if you've got a good review out there that you can present to somebody else, I can keep quiet and let the review do the work for me.
That's cool.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Another question that was here in the comments from Lee is, what motivated you to start a business you knew nothing about, and how did you deal with the disappointment when things went wrong?
Starting a business that I knew nothing about. Business is one thing, product is something else. How difficult can it be to sell you this very, very heavy weight, by the way? Okay, that's a simple. How difficult can it be to sell you that? That's not particularly difficult. The difficulty is working out why you want that particular way. I used to play with Meccano and Lego when I was young, and I could build things with Lego and with Meccano. They could stand up for a little bit, sometimes they fell down, but it was I'm fairly good with my hands, and I it's just like building something, and if I could make that something look nice inside and out, I could do the selling and convince you to take it. So, yeah, remind. I hope I haven't digressed, but just ask the question again.
Okay, so yeah, what motivated you to start the business you knew nothing about? And the second part of the question is, how did you deal with disappointment when things went wrong?
Okay, as I said earlier, motivating me to start a business was because no one else was going to employ me anyway. So that's the first point. Knowing nothing about it was made a little sweeter, given the fact that I'd made small structures and tents and everything else in my little youth, and I sort of tried to assimilate that in my mind and say, well, how difficult could it possibly be building something a little bit bigger. Anyway, so that was a very easy hurdle to overcome. The element of what's the second bit? Sorry, I'm not going mad and I'm not going.
The second.
Yeah, the second part of the question was.
Yeah. So, how did you deal with disappointment?
Oh, gosh, dealing with disappointment. Look, with this, I was entering a completely new world, a completely new domain. It was going to be full of disappointment, and it was going to be full of adventure and success as well. You know, for everything that went wrong, there was something that was going to go right. It was just going to be part and parcel of the whole process. No, that didn't. That wasn't. I mean, I could have thrown my toys out of the basket when that tent fell down. I could have, but then what?
Yeah.
No, it was all part of the whole experience, and you know, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We got another question from the same person earlier, Aaron Nadish. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. What is your plan B if Eventerprise doesn't go the way it's supposed to be?
I've burnt my lifeboat. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Basically, Eventerprise. The reason I think another way of rephrasing it is how do I go from being in the events industry and the tent world into doing what we're doing now? And for those that don't know, Eventerprise is a digital platform, if you like, that brings hosts and suppliers together in a reviewed and transparent means. Basically, people looking for an event service, product or venue come through the Eventerprise platform, and hosts looking for those people find them in a very reviewed and impartial way. So and to do that, we've had to build a digital platform. So I've gone from events to digital to tech. Now, I know events, and I know bricks and mortar, how events come together, and how tents go up, and who needs what, when, and I built up a fairly successful business over a long period of time that executed in that world. So I can empathise with any event supplier out there, and I know how difficult it is to actually stand head and shoulders above your competition and to be worthy of a particular piece of business when somebody has come in under your price and they've set up overnight, but they're competing with you, and you've been in the business for 20 odd years or whatever. Not that long, but I mean for however long. So I'm empathetic, and I feel, and I know what it's been. I know what event suppliers are going through, and they're people who are bloody good at what they do. They're passionate about a particular aspect of the events industry. They may not be the best marketeers of their product or service, and that's where our suppliers are finding it difficult to reconnect with the industry. So, getting back to, is it Udesh's question?
Yeah.
On what is Plan B? There is no Plan B. This is my Plan A, B, and C. We're going to, and we have been doing it for the last 4 years, we're going to deliver Eventerprise to the world as the global platform that connects a disconnected and somewhat fragmented industry. No Plan B, Udesh. This is it.
He's replied to you again. He says here, it's good to burn your boats, but it said that never test the depth of water with both feet. And he says it's very inspiring.
Thank you. No, he's absolutely right. I mean, you've got to know if you're going to get off. If you're going to get off the boat, burn it. You must have a plan. And that was the other thing when we sort of set the business up. And I say we because I had a very great partner at the time as well. When we set the business up, there was no real game plan. We were young, and the game plan was to create a business that ran, that worked, that people wanted, but I hadn't got an exit in mind at that time. It was just a case of build it, they will come. I just piled more money into buying new gear, and I built up an inventory, but I hadn't got a plan. It was just growing, it became successful, and it was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But you get to a point where it exhausts you, and you get to a point where you think, all right, what happens tomorrow? How do I sort of stand back from this? And that is that in some respects is your plan B. So you build a business, burn your boat, but have some sort of exit and plan to be able to stand back, if you like. And fortunately, we were able to do that as well. So again, I get what he's saying about not putting both feet into the water, or at least measuring the depth of the water first, or whatever the analogy is, but I can see it in my head.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well, for my last question to end off that I have for you is, how much from what you did then are you applying to what you're doing now, at this moment?
Okay. Right. So, wearing two hats. One of them is the hat that understands the event side of the business, what hosts want, what suppliers and vendors want. And it's like building a structure, but digitally. So it's and where I was weak in building my business earlier on was that I was like a bull in a china shop. If I had an idea, I was going to run with it, but there was going to be an awful lot of fallout as I went along, and the fallout in my case was not great systems and processes in place at the time, which when I got to the point of looking to build the business up where it was acquirable, I had to work retrospectively and put the systems and processes in place, and that was a trick. But again, I was able to call on the services of some very, very skilled individuals. Pierre, you're out there, and I'll be forever grateful for the work that you helped us with in doing that. And then, of course, more latterly, Paul, who basically was able to then take the processes and the systems that we had then put together and package it up, help me package it up, and into the peacock with its feathers and everything else, and that was what we were able to sell at the end of the day. So, if you like, one was, just to answer the question succinctly, one was my experience with structures and the events industry. The second is with the people that I worked with and who bought into the idea and who helped me put vision to paper. And Paul and Pierre and gosh, I can name so many people: Jono, Minnie, Amy, and Jen, and Carmen, and there are Hugh and Sylvia. There are any numbers of people out there that have been through the whole experience with me, and I think fortunately for me, in the business that I'm in now, I've teamed up with Goods, who is able to bring the process, the systems, and whose vision is aligned with mine. So we've been able to join forces very, very well. But yeah, I think it has been my ability to work with people, to get a vision across, to make people understand what is possible, and having the experience of an industry that we're trying to really reconnect.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Charlie. That's made me more wiser.
Really?
No, definitely.
You can't get any cleverer.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely take these, the questions I've asked and the answers I've been given today, and I can even put it in for myself, or hopefully I can, kind of go the same way. Hopefully something good comes out of there as well, which it should. I mean, from your experience and all the things that you said to us now. But yeah, I'm very happy with that. If there's anything else you would like to say to the public that's watching us now,
I remember once my kit arrived in Dubai, early on, I had not those that were disbelieving or that didn't believe it could happen, but those that stood by me and sort of said, "Yeah, I see where you're going with this. I think it'd be a terrific opportunity." These were dear mates of mine who are still out there, and Chris Allen is one, James Goulding, Graham Diamond are others, who, when the kit arrived, they had 9 to 5 jobs at the same time, but when the kit arrived, they were the sort of individuals that broke away from their 9 to 5 jobs, and down tools and came up to the warehouse, helped me into the early hours of the morning, unpacking, repacking, and even learning the trade with me, and helped me put tents up on sites at all sorts of hours, and then we'd get in the car having put his head under a tap of water and gone straight to the office. So I had an enormous amount of support and help from friends and people who eventually, on seeing the kit, wanted to get stuck in as well. But yeah, it was wonderfully exciting times, and so it's such a fun industry to be part of. It just needs some sort of regulation and for everyone's benefit, so that the right people get the right work, and I know what it's like. So I'm really just applying a science that I grew up with, and trying to make it better for people to connect.
Just another thing, just from my side, do you miss it by the journey that you went through?
Yeah, of course you do. The events industry is anyone out there that can empathise with where I've been and the industry itself will I'm sure testify that it is an extraordinarily diverse industry. It is very demanding, hugely demanding, and it saps the life out of you at times. When you get to the point where you've got an event every night of the week, and the people who have employed your services want you to be part of their event, if only to oversee it and make sure the tents don't fall down, or the floor doesn't give way, or the air conditioning doesn't stop, or whatever. The point is, they buy you. They buy your soul for these events as well. And as demanding as it was, there is, in my opinion, an optimum amount of time where you can do that at 100%. I miss the life and the soul of the events industry. I miss the people and the interaction with the host, with the suppliers, the alliances that I formed. I mean, wonderful, wonderful days. But it was stressful. It was very, very stressful. And I think I inherited my degree of stress and coped with it. But so I don't miss the stress. I miss the people. I miss the the whole environment, the event environment, which is why I'm loving doing what I'm doing now, because I'm, if you like, in some respects, still associated with the events industry, but at an arm's distance. So I can give myself when needed, but I can also hold back. But you must remember, I'm only involved in the events industry on the periphery. We're not in the events industry per se. We don't organise, we don't coordinate, we don't promote anyone over anyone else. We are simply a conduit through which an industry connects. So yeah. I love watching it from the sidelines. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did my time, and so I don't really miss the. I think you get it.
No, thank you very much. No, that was very cool.
John, you got a question? I'm pretty good with capitals, cities of the world.
So if I go to Dubai now, I can say your name and everyone will bring me free champagne and stuff. Yes.
Everyone will run. Everyone will run. No, there are still, and this is the great thing, over in Dubai now, the company still exists. The people are still engaged in the business. I mean, the fraternity is a very close fraternity, but there's lots of people still there that hopefully will remember me. And I do love going back there and looking them up.
So you still keep in contact?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
that's cool.
Absolutely.
It's true what you said earlier. I mean, the people do play a major role in something like this. I mean, the different, especially in cultures. I mean, if you've got a worldwide business as well, I mean, the different people you meet just makes business so much more rich. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing.
No, we were very lucky. We built up a very multicultural business. I mean, if you've been to Dubai, you'll know it is very multicultural. And we had people from the Philippines, people from vast majority from Nepal, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from and then of course we had Sri Lanka. So we had a lot. We were very multicultural, and I miss the people very much. But it's great. Facebook and everything else keeps us very close.
That's good.
And I watch daily what's going on over there and around the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with
Is there anything else? Do you think anyone else wants to ask a question, or do you think they're all too busy? That's actually they're probably too busy at work, which is a good thing. That's Barry. That's Barry. Can you see Barry? He thinks he's working. Come on, somebody asked me a question about Barry. What does he do? This is the design department here. Look, if you look through here, John, this is Justin. Oh look! There they are. There's Barry. And there's Malika, and Malika's working on a brand. There's Eric, and Malika's working on a brand. We basically created, which we think we're fairly quite clever with. We have been looking for so long to integrate a review platform into what we do. In other words, to integrate a ready-made product that works with our platform, where people can submit reviews to us, our clients. And we tested a lot of products out there, but the problem was that the review platforms that were out there were very dominant towards product and not so much service. So we have basically spent now the last 8 weeks, or one side of the development team for the last 8 weeks has been foot to the pedal with designing, and not designing, but programming and coding our very own white label review platform that can be used independently by other platforms in our space, but also dedicated to the Eventerprise platform. And that's what she's working on over there. It's called Trusty Tribe. Anyway, what's the time? It is now 5 o'clock. How long have we been going?
Roughly about an hour, almost. Very good.
Cool, huh?
Yeah, no,
I enjoyed that.
I also enjoyed it. I mean, like I said earlier, I've definitely got a lot of answers for myself to grow as a person, you know.
Really?
Yeah, no, really.
That's kind.
No, it's very, I really enjoyed it. John, did you?
Yes, I did. Making me talk on camera.
Good. All right. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to? Because I think it'd be quite cool. I mean, while we're out there and while we are live, is to maybe just put the camera out in the office,
Yeah.
so that we don't want to cut off any questions or answers that are out there. So why don't we put the camera out in the office, let it sort of sit there and watch what's going on,
Yeah.
and John, you and Keith can identify when a question comes through. And just grab me and I'll come and try and answer it.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Cool.
Put your cap on.
Not my cap, is it?
All right. Thank you. I may be back.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Back to my desk.
I guess Charlie off to work.
First time.
Charlie, is the stand?
Where's the stand?
Yeah. Say hi, guys. Say hi, Goods.
Hello, how are you?
What's up, man? Good. Say how's it, Barry?
What up?
Okay. I'm going back to my desk now, which is over here. Please don't disturb me unless it's a really intelligent question. And if you want a really intelligent question, it's going to come from down here. Kaya, ask me a really intelligent question, and then come and tell me. I'll come and answer it. This is Kaya. This is Kaya.
Hello,
Kaya, tell everyone who you are.
this is Kaya. I'm training here at Eventerprise.com. I'm doing digital marketing. I'm responsible for everything paid media. Yeah, and this is Charlie.
This is Kaya.
Good.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
This is Layla. No, you've got to say, you've got to wave. This is Layla. Layla works between Goods and Barry here. She's seriously doing such a good job here. Layla, tell everyone what you're doing.
Stuff. Smiling?
No, tell everyone what you do here.
Oh, pop-ups and stuff
Go on. Pop-ups. What is a pop-up?
on the website.
Yeah, but tell, what does a pop-up do on our website? Pop-ups. It's not lollies, Chris. I know you'll probably think. Pop-ups. Tell me what a pop-up does and how it integrates with our platform. Why we've got them on.
We do live chat and we do pop-ups, and then I'm behind all of that.
Cool, huh? So if you ask, give us an example. Give me an example.
When you go into the website, first thing you see is a little message that says, "Hey there, what type of event are you planning?" I'm the person who did that, so I programmed that message.
Do you have an example there on your Mac there? Maybe the audience can see. If you do.
I'm not trying to put her on the spot. I'm just sort of going around the office, meeting people. Kaya's back. He wants to get back. Here we go.
Hello, once again. Whenever you see anything sponsored by Eventerprise, think about this face. You know?
There we go. There's something there.
So if you type a message,
Yeah.
there,
You're typing a message here.
I'll get that message.
Okay, there we go, look.
Yeah.
So put it in there and then Layla will get that. Right, there we go. Thanks, Layla. Right. Okay. Now,